So we never had a TV when I was growing up, and the television set was an object of fascination to me. Most of my friends didn't have a TV either. So I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist college, Avondale College in Australia, and the more religious Seventh-day Adventists did not own TVs. And I get that because it is a significant contradiction with the religious life between dedicating yourself to God and His commandments and owning a TV. On the other hand, which is just filling your home with filth when you have it turned on, in all likelihood. And there'd be a lot of talk, oh, we're just going to get a TV to watch nature documentaries. That would be a talking point. In Seventh-day Adventism that I grew up in, it was a sin to play cards. It was a sin to go to the theater. It was a sin to go to the cinema. It was possibly a sin to read novels. And so that was a pretty serious Adventism that I grew up with. And let's see here, where's that guy going? So on those rare occasions when I got to go over to someone's house without a TV, it's like, whoa, this is awesome. Or occasionally they'd put the TV on in the classroom to watch the cricket, and there'd be a test match between Australia and England. So I remember that. And then I got my very first radio in 6th grade when I moved to the United States. And part of my culturating to America is I spend the summers in the Pacific Union College Library reading all the back issues of Time Life, Newsweek magazine, and Sports Illustrated. So I became a sports fan. And so I got a radio, and it was thrilling to listen to live sports and talk radio and news radio and sports talk radio. And I started working in 6th grade. I had a gardening job, which I did not do very well at. I was not diligent. But I was into running, and so I'd listen to the radio for hours every day, and I'd love it, and try to imitate the people I heard on the radio. And I wrote letters to the sports director at KGO Radio, and he wrote me like a lengthy postcard back. It was really thrilling. And like all the sports directors at the various major TV and radio stations, they pretty much all wrote me back when I was like a 12-year-old kid. And because I wanted to become a sports reporter when I grew up. In December of 1979, my parents moved to Washington, D.C., and I stayed with a friend of the family to finish the last 6 months of 8th grade, and she had a TV, so that was amazing. And even though it was limited to only an hour a night, I was just absolutely thrilled by this medium that had been forbidden. It was not present in my home. So much so that when I was thinking about my 14th birthday, which was May 28, 1980, like what I wanted for my 14th birthday was to be able to watch 24 hours of TV. Just like nothing but TV for 24 hours. That was my idea of bliss. Embarrassing now. Like, I'm glad we didn't have a TV growing up, because that way I read lots and lots of books. Sometimes I'd read 5 books in a day. So I'm glad we didn't have a TV, but once I got access to one, I was just absolutely hooked. And summer of 1980, my parents finally got their first TV. It was just a small black and white TV, but it changed my life. So we were on the way out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we were struggling to create our own religious community based on my father's preaching. And so in any competition between a struggling religious community and us having lost our sense of community and comradeship with the Seventh-day Adventists and this fantastic TV thing. I was just all about the TV. Just loved the TV. It was like riveting. It was sexy. It was sexual. It was intense. I thought, you know, I'm gonna spend my life so I can be on TV as much as possible. So I decided I wanted to do anchor, and I borrowed a tape recorder from my father, and I had 5 segments, and I'd announce them, and I'd go play them for my father. Do that from age 14, 15, 16 or so. And then 10th grade, family was having some financial problems, so I was able to persuade them to allow me to go to public school, into Placer High School, in a large part because I could take a journalism class. And when I got there, I also signed up for a media class. It's like, whoa, I could take a whole class in TV and movies. And I started sneaking away going to movies, which were a sin in my Seventh-day Adventist upbringing. But now we're kind of out of the Seventh-day Adventist church, so like possibilities were expanding. And yeah, I was just obsessed with getting on TV, getting on the radio, a career in journalism, like being a public figure, commenting on the news, breaking the news. However, I had a problem. I had a tremendous amount of body tension, which would constrict my voice box. So when I'd get excited, my voice would rise so high that only dogs could hear it. And my school had its own community access cable TV channel, and I did a lot of the programming for that channel. But my voice was so bad, so squeaky, that my nickname was the Squeakin' Deacon. It was just terrible. I showed no, just no ability to be a TV news anchor. I was just too tense. My voice was too strained, and the more I tried to project my voice, the worse it sounded. The more I worried about my voice, the worse it sounded. And I'd go to my father, who was this accomplished public speaker, and try to get public speaking tips from him, how to project my voice, and he'd give me books to read and tips, and I couldn't implement anything that he taught me. So after I graduated from high school, in high school for 2 years, I did a like 5-10 minute news segment on the high school for the local radio station. And then after I graduated high school, KAHI radio in Auburn, after I graduated from high school, I interned at Cahill Radio. That was based in Auburn near Sacramento. And then I was covering this 100-mile race, and I stayed up all night covering the race. And at the same time, this local woman was found murdered, so I covered that in the early morning. So I stayed up all Saturday night into early Sunday morning. It was the Sunday morning that German Boris Becker won the Wimbledon, and my bosses at the radio station were so impressed that they finally hired me. 16 hours a week at minimum wage, $3.35 an hour. And I read the news on the weekends. I went out, reported the news. I'd go to Candlestick Park, cover the 49ers. On Sundays sometimes, cover the 49ers training camp at my community college, Sierra Community College. But my voice problems, like because of all this unnecessary tension, my voice problems kind of strangled any possible radio career, and I just got worse and worse and worse till I just finally quit in frustration in the fall of 1987 to concentrate on my education and decide, okay, this radio thing, journalism thing is too superficial. I want to be an academic. But my love for the camera and for performance, it didn't die. And so I started making a living as a blogger in July of 1997 onwards. And I do podcasts starting in about year 2000. Not sure if they were called podcasts then. But still, I preserved a lot of video of all this from high school. I have a fetish for wanting to preserve evidence of my life, and yeah, it's embarrassing. I don't display much talent, and there are other kids my age who are getting hired at major Sacramento radio stations, and they were on their way to a career in journalism, radio, and TV, and for all my efforts, I was just strangled. And if you see I recorded all these video interviews in the summer of 1995. Used the title "What Women Want," and there are about 70 of these on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And when I look at them, I'm just kind of awkward and a little bit creepy and ill at ease with myself. So the things I do now, I could not have done successfully before. When I was 19 and working in radio, I dreamt of getting like an overnight radio job where I'd host a talk show and I'd share my opinions on the news, and I thought, yeah, I'm perfectly suited for that. And cognitively, I had the stuff, but unfortunately, spiritually, I was a wreck. And because of all my unnecessary body tension, my voice was strangled, and it just sounded horrible. So I could not achieve my dreams. So I thought by becoming an expert on the porn industry, at least I'll get on TV a lot. I'll break a lot of news stories because nobody else wants to cover this dirty, filthy industry, and I'll be interviewed on TV a lot. And I was. But I remember a friend of mine who produced a lot of TV, she didn't want to use me, I remember, for one of her expos, because she thought, for one of her projects, because she thought I was too stiff. Because I had all this unnecessary body tension, and so my presentation on TV was very stiff. I still had voice problems. My voice was still kind of strangled. And when I came to Los Angeles in 1994, I followed my girlfriend's prescription that I should get into acting and modeling. So I'd take all these acting classes, and the class would be struck that no matter what role I was playing, I always played that role like a serial killer. Like, that's how much unnecessary tension and compression I had going on in my body. I remember in 7th grade, the teacher tried to give me the lead role in a school play, and I just purposefully underperformed. So if you spiritually are addicted to hiding, if you're spiritually addicted to failure, if you're spiritually addicted to creating all sorts of unnecessary conflict with other people, then like I was, there was no way I could ever succeed. And then with all my physical tension, my voice was strangled, my performance was strangled, I was stiff, I was ill at ease, I could not succeed spiritually or just physiologically because of the nature of these compression patterns in my thinking, in my emotions, in my body, demonstrating in like squeezing on my voice box, like very ill at ease in my body. My shoulders would ache every day because they were kind of squeezed together. So I was getting on TV a lot, but voice problems remained. I could not do a sustained podcast without severe vocal strain. When I was on TV, I was stiff and awkward. You can see that in many of my TV appearances. I was exhausted. And then I had this spiritual compulsion of hiding. Like, part of me wanted to be famous because I loved it. Whenever I'd get on TV, I'd get contacted by women who wanted to sleep with me. But another large part of me was just addicted to hiding, to sabotaging my success, limiting it. So I could never have done these videos. And I started this YouTube channel in 2007 and didn't really do a whole lot of great stuff with it for the first few years. And I remember, I think, years 2012, 2013, 2014, I made almost no videos for this channel because I was so struggling with my life. I had over 50K in credit card debt. Even though I'd solved my vocal problems through becoming an Alexander Technique teacher, 3 years of daily training, helped me to unlock all the unnecessary compression patterns that were strangling my voice. But inside, I still wanted to hide because I was so embarrassed about my position in life. I just felt so vulnerable. I just wasn't prepared to be positively visible. I just wanted to kind of make a very small impact on the world. And if I was going to say anything to the world, I was going to do it on my blog, because I'd have much more control over that than a more spontaneous medium like YouTube. So 2012, 2013, 2014 went by. I made hardly any videos, even though I knew that this was a medium for me. I was strangled by my own fears, by just this intense sense of vulnerability and like not wanting to say the wrong thing spontaneously, and then people would hate me. And then I was doing a weekly Torah Talk show. So that was 2011, 2012. Then I quit it in, say, May of 2012 after 2 years, and I was glad to be done with it. And I just put all this aside for about 3 years until 2015. I started exchanging a lot of Facebook conversations with Vivian Veritas, and I got the idea of reviving Torah Talk. And I had so much fun doing the shows with her that inspired me to come back and to do a lot more videos. So it took a long time to develop some inner peace, some peace with my position in life, with who I am, what I'm all about, and a desire to contribute to the world and to have these conversations.